When we first started working in the village of Punjum in northern Senegal, we started with a handful of farmers who didn't even have enough money to buy seed for the new growing season. The solution at that moment was to offer these men a loan so that they could buy the much needed seed. And soon we had nurseries growing, and while they were growing, the men would be preparing the big field. And then it was time to transplant from the nursery into the big field. And it was at that point when the big work of watering started. These men would water their gardens day in, day out, for weeks and months at a time. And then the day came for the harvest to be brought in. And it was a great day, but it was a bit bittersweet because we realized it really wasn't enough. Because while the men were watering, they still had to eat and they still had to survive. And so they would borrow money from friends and family. And so when the day of the harvest came, they had to repay all these loans, which pretty much brought them back to square one. The main problem for these farmers was that they could only physically water about 500 square yards a day by hand. And so for the last year, we've been working with 5 farmers and in helping them increase their surface area. The way we've been doing that is by drilling boreholes and placing basins strategically throughout the field. And as the water gets pumped out of the boreholes, it goes directly into these basins. The result has been that these farmers are able to irrigate areas that are about 3 to 4 times as large as they were able to in the past, because now they're not pulling water out of the well by hand. The hope is that these farmers will then also be able to increase their harvest by 300 to 400% in the near future. Working in the fields is hard work and very tiring, and so at around 11 o'clock, all the farmers will stop working and go sit under a tree and drink some tea. I love tea time because we get to sit around and we get to talk about life. And one of the things I get to talk about all the time is I get to talk about the Bible. I get to share stories of Christ with these men, and I get to share a hope that these men have never heard of. I'm probably the only guy that comes and hangs out with these men in the fields and brings them hope. The latest addition to the small plot irrigation project has been the local elementary school. The elementary school approached me a while back and asked if I would be able to help them start up a garden, and with the hope that the garden would teach the kids some new farming techniques, but also would help generate income for some much needed repairs and some maintenance, but also just to generally improve the school. The hope is that these gardens would be model gardens that then we can replicate in other surrounding villages, which will then give me an opportunity to be an ambassador for Christ in these new places. The small plot irrigation project is really gaining momentum in the village of Punjum as the farmers are growing things other than their normal onions, and they're trying out new growing techniques, and they're trying to use different watering techniques, and it's so exciting to be able to be part of that. There's a sense that there is a hope for a brighter future, and the amazing thing is that this hope is spilling out to those that aren't even in the project. But ultimately, it is my prayer that these men, women, and children will come to know the ultimate hope that we have in Jesus Christ. Thank you so much for your prayers and your support as we continue to minister here in Senegal.